Hello, hello, it's that time again. Time for me to ramble about Fallout bollocks over some drawings in the background. I'm in a complaining mood today, so I'm going to talk about Bethesda's raider problem and how it ties into one of my favorite quests in New Vegas. Now, this quest is 3-card bounty. It's the one you get in the McCarran Airport from Major Dartry. It's a very strange quest to pick as your favorite from New Vegas, because New Vegas is a game known for its choices and decisions, and this is basically just a headhunting quest. Which, Todd's games, they're full of quite a lot. A lot of the quests in Fallout 4 are just, hey, go kill that random NPC over there, and that's what they think is good quest design sometimes. And I don't necessarily think it's bad to design just a headhunting quest, because I think they can be, well, this is a great example, because this one is a really good one. But an issue I find with a lot of the Bethesda headhunting quests is they lean on the environmental storytelling quite heavily. Like, you've shot the raider in the face, but you only know who he is by his diary you always seem to find on him. Like, you very rarely get the backstory that 3-card bounty gives the raiders beforehand, which I think makes them quite memorable, and it really builds these characters up you're off to fight. Because before I go on a mercenary headhunting mission, I want to know, who is this dickhead? What did he do? Why am I going to mash this guy's face in, you know? I feel like it just adds that little extra level of personality to them, which a lot of the Fallout 4 quests tend to really lack when they have you just, oh, go shoot generated raider number 5 over there. I think a best thing, oh, well, not the best, but a good example of this is probably the first quest you do for the Minutemen, where Preston sends you to a little settlement and they go, hey, there's like a bunch of guys at the Corvega factory who are bullying us. And you can find on his body and in the environment that he used to be like live in a settlement with Mama Murphy, which is really interesting. But you only really hear that after you've murdered him, and it's like, oh, well, his body's on the floor, I guess he used to do this. But it doesn't build him up. He's just some random dickhead at that point, you know? This is basically an entirely different issue, though, because it is my biggest problem with modern Bethesda stuff, how they do lean on the environmental storytelling, like, really, really heavily. And I get why, because it's easier to leave a Wikipedia page in the boss's pocket than it is to have someone go, oh, that's Murderin' Steve. Watch out for Murderin' Steve, he's real mean. Because in my mind, I would rather know who Murderin' Steve is before I mash his face in than go, oh, I guess he was cool, I suppose, but he was, you know, that would probably take up a lot more resources, like you'd need to voice act and sort of script the scenes, but, you know, I just think it would be better overall than just constantly giving everyone a diary. Why are these raider bosses so meticulously, like, they all have their little diaries in their back pocket? What is this? Are they all like 12-year-old girls on the inside? They're all just like, dear diary, today I murdered and pillaged the local village. Everyone hates me now, but I have cool hats, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. You know what? Tangent within a tangent. One of my biggest issues with Fallout 4 in general is it seems like all the cool stuff happens off screen. Like, you got this shit that happened with Quincy, you got this what is it, University Point or something, that village that Kellogg was said to destroyed. You've got all these really cool settlements, and it's like, you know what? I would like to have been involved in this. This sounds really interesting. Why are they all dead? Honestly, I get distracted so easily. It's a miracle I get any actual work done. People have said on my other videos that these videos are like friend ASMR. It sounds like, oh, your friend telling a story. It's just ASMR. Your autistic friend tries to talk to you about Fallout but gets distracted and can't seemingly make a coherent point. That's just me. But yeah, 3-card bounty. Attempting to get back on topic. The thing I love about this quest is before Dartry sends you out to get each of the heads, he gives you like an in-depth backstory to each one of them, which I think really makes you feel like, oh, I'm taking down a character, not just some nebulous NPC. And I like how they're all distinct and have their own very unique, like, fighting style, so they're not just, oh, here's Dave with a gun. It's, okay, you've got Cook, he wears this big suit of metal armor, and he's got a flamer. Not a lot of raiders have flamers, that's quite a rare item to get. Side tangent, I really wish these guys had unique items, because it's a thing that bugs me about the Vendatron. You get all these cool looking gun runners arsenal weapons, but like, it would be interesting to give that gun to Cook. He's just got the cleansing flame, the one with the blue flame. It would have made him unique and stand out. Might have been OP, because you can just get that gun really quickly just by sniping his head off, but still. Anyway, I think Cook is by far one of the most interesting of the 3 raider bosses you've got to take down, because they make it very clear this guy is not a very nice fella. He's a fan of the old struggle cuddling, you know what I mean? So already when you go to hunt this guy down, you're already aware this guy is a bit of a monster. There's a reason we need to get this guy taken down, because he's terrorizing the locals and people seem afraid of him. You can actually talk to a lot of the people in the camp and they will bring up things he's done either to them or the way people are afraid of him. There's, I think, little Buster you can talk to who talks about he had a brief encounter with him. And I know, because it's really interesting to see that other characters, even not in the direct area, will mention him briefly. And I like this idea that a raider boss actually has some sort of intimidation factor around. He's not just like again, ranting about the Bethesda ones, it seems like they are only really impactful in their own little neighborhood, and outside of that, no one knows who the heck they are. And still, after you have actually killed him, you can actually go up to his victims and say, by the way, he's dead now, I killed him. And they're actually like, oh, geez, good job. It's just nice to know I've done this quest, I've killed this raider boss, and it's actually having an effect on the world that people acknowledge. Because it's the issue with a lot of the quests in Fallout 4. You know, you'll say, oh, by the way, you know, I killed that raider boss that was harassing you. But like another one will pop up in like a week. Another good thing about once these characters are dead, they stay dead, they don't get replacements. Like, yeah, sure, they'll generate random NPC fiends for you to fight. But like, they're not the same way as, oh, by the way, there's another raider boss over there. It feels permanent when you get them out of the way. And another thing New Vegas does that Fallout 4 and 3 really should have done is they add to the end cards, like if you kill all the raider bosses, there is actually like consequences in the final story. I could make a whole separate video just talking about how like crucial the end cards are and how annoying it is how Fallout 3 and 4 are just like, nah, I don't need that really important bit of storytelling. But yeah, another one of the raider bosses they tell you to go after is Violet, and I think she's the least interesting of the three of them. I do think it's really interesting how her combat style involves attacking you while also having like a million dogs around her. I can't think of, because dogs aren't really used super often in these games in conjunction with raiders. You'd think there'd be more factions that use them more often, but Violet's really the main one that does. She's the least interesting, but I think she's still well above the regular Bethesda raider bosses, because despite not being super interesting in-game, she still, like, they at least attempt to give her some form of personality. Like, they say she's like the mother of the dog, she treats them like they're her babies, and she's quite attached to them. It is still pretty interesting that you've got to deal with someone firing at you with a gun from a raised platform while you're surrounded by all these dogs, so you've got to pick and choose your target at that point. I wish she was the one that held the shotgun. I think it's called Dinner Bell, because that would have been kind of fun. It's like, that's how she tells her dogs to attack people. It would have been a nice little bit of extra personality together. Not that she really needs much more personality, just because of the fact they try to give her some personality, and it's a little bit foreboding going to go fight these guys. But I don't think the unique weapons are strictly necessary. I just think they'd add that little bit of extra flavor to them, which would make them just beautiful. And speaking of unique weapons, Driver Nephi, he's probably, I'm struggling which one's more spooky, Cook, or Driver Nephi. But I think the thing that's most interesting about Driver Nephi is he is the only one that has a unique weapon, which I think is really interesting because one of the first times I fought these guys, I was running a melee build. So I was running around with Nephi's 9-iron driver for like so long. And I just thought it's a really interesting bit of like storytelling that just, I have this weapon that I claimed off a raider boss. And it's been my tool of destruction for the longest period of time now. Like, I remember it breaking while I was in Zion Canyon fighting the White Legs, and it made me just think about how it's really cool how this bit of lore to my playthrough has been built up, that I did this quest, I killed this person, and I've just been carrying this item that had this history. Like, it had been held by Nephi before me, and I'd claimed it after I killed him, and this weapon had been the end of so many NCR rangers and troops, and now it was in my hands that I chose to do what I presume is good with it. I don't know, maybe I'm really over-romanticizing this. Like, this sounds like the sort of thing you'd put in one of those video essays. Alright, talk all soft and talk about the meaning of storytelling and things, you know what I mean? Like, come on, I can't reach that level of pretentious already, come on. Very gay tangent about Nephi's meter-long pole aside. Dartree gives you the backstory on Nephi too, and it's quite an in-depth one. He talks about how Nephi has basically killed several NCR troops and rangers using a golf club, which really isn't that far away from just a metal pole if you think about it. So that already makes him quite terrifying and intimidating, considering that he takes down fully trained rangers with just a melee weapon. But it's also great because it's quite barbaric to consider he just bludgeons his enemies to death with a golf club. It really gives him this air of like, he's quite the brute. Everyone you talk to about him basically says, yeah, don't get close. Stay as far away from this guy as you can. If he gets close, you're basically fucked. Which wasn't great for me because the first time I fought him, I was doing a melee build. So I'm going toe-to-toe with this guy, and I'm like, oh, great, I picked the perfect build for this opponent. So that alone would make this character quite intimidating. But then they put the cherry on top by saying, hey, we're gonna send an entire battalion of snipers with you just because this guy is so dangerous, which is amazing, because when you take him down, it really feels like it was a moment, like it was a whole planned thing. Like, you think this would be like the finale to like an arc of TV or something. So the plan they come up with is that you will be the bait that he will charge into attack, and before he can get to you, they will all take him down with sniper shots, which is pretty interesting, because it adds an additional intimidation factor on, knowing that you effectively need an entire troop of backup just to take this one guy out, who realistically is just a guy on a million drugs who wields a golf club. Because the funniest thing is, when you look at this quest and you zoom out a little bit, it is just go shoot these 3 people, effectively. It's a very, very simple quest. But the fact that they put so much personality and like backstory into these characters is what really makes it for me. Because, you know, you can shoot a million raiders in the head, they don't really matter. But like, when you give one a backstory and make it really interesting, that's what makes good storytelling in my mind. I really feel like it's not too much to ask for just to have the characters I'm going after have a bit of personality and make them a little bit unique. Because to end off on a more positive note, one of the quests where Fallout 4 does this actually kind of well is, I think it's the Finch Farm quest where you go to fight the Forged, because that quest is really interesting. Those raiders have a unique look to them, they're part of a unique gang, and their boss has like a unique story with something to do with the surrounding town that you feel like it has some sort of effect on the area. It's not a great example, because I feel like the Forged are definitely one of those factions that get really, really underused. I actually quite like this faction. I think there was a lot of potential they really missed out on with this whole thing. I actually was planning to make a video years and years back where I was gonna like, rewriting the Forge to make them interesting and making them a bigger part of the game. But then I eventually just sort of came to the conclusion of, well, this faction has changed so much and it's basically not the same thing anymore. So, like, why don't I just do something with this rather than just giving Todd free ideas? Not that Todd would ever use any of my ideas, but it gave me a good idea for a villain for Scarlet Ranger, which I'd never say no. Anyway, if you're a madman and you've made it this far into this video, thank you. Thank you for listening to my inane ramblings once again. Remember to do the like, comment, subscribe thing. Tell me below what you think of this quest and raiders in general. Some of the shit you guys say is pretty cracked, so it's always quite the trip reading the comments sometimes, but please do say something. It's pretty interesting. I could use a good giggle. But yeah, playlist over there. Go watch it. Give me all that sweet, sweet watch time, and see you next time. Goodbye.